This talk is about the Titanic, and from a slightly unusual angle. I should explain, I was at sea for 37 years, and when I left I became the United Kingdom's Chief Inspector of Marine Accidents and had insight into how accidents were investigated. So when I first saw some of the more detailed work about the Titanic, I looked at it and thought, I'm not terribly sure that we would do it this way if we were investigating the Titanic today. So I looked at some of the inside or some of the background to it, and I came to the conclusion that almost certainly I would come to different conclusions to those which were reached in 1912. And I should explain at this juncture that I do this research without the benefit of hindsight, with no intention of apportioning blame, and looking at all the evidence and picking out what I think are the highlights rather than what one person said. Superimposed on that was how accidents are caused, which are never by a single thing. They're usually by a whole range of events spread over time, and that's exactly what happened with the Titanic. So going back to square one, I looked at the accident chain, which actually goes back to 3,000 years. And the first thing was a snowflake on the ice cloud of Greenland, and that's what started it all off. I then took the whole event from start to finish, and I identified a whole string of underlying reasons, from the fact that wireless operators were unaware of the importance of messages to do with navigational warnings, right through to the captain's absolute conviction that he was going to see the ice before they actually hit it. And in fact they did see the ice, and that's one of the things which come out of the story. And all the way through to clearly not enough lifeboats. But these are just some of the major events, but the whole story is about these small ones. And at the end of the day, I compared my results with what they came up with 1912. And what is interesting, they are different. What I've been able to identify as well is the one single event which triggered the whole thing. And that was very simple, very obvious, and yet very few people have spotted it. And that's what some of the talk is about today.